Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 223 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on August 6th, 2024. Man, episode 223. That's right. Yeah, we should do something special, like talk about 556 data. No, hope you're all doing well today. Shout out to the folks in the Southeast. I hope that storm isn't wreaking too much havoc with that rain, or wreaked too much havoc with that rain. I think it's probably over now, probably just dealing with some flooding. So Godspeed. Hope you and your families are doing okay. Today, we're going to be getting into the technical discussion of the Surefire SOCOM 762 Mini 2 as applied to 556 suppression. Okay. If you remember last week in the introductory talk, we spoke in broad strokes about the applicability of 30 caliber silencers on 556. And really of universal application of silencers to certain cartridges. A lot of folks try to save money and time by using a silencer as a so-called multi-caliber unit, right? Or a multi-platform solution. And you know what? There's nothing inherently wrong with doing that. There really isn't. But a huge caveat here is that you must know how the particular silencer you're using behaves with different input. Okay, just because something can fit through the board doesn't mean the performance is optimized. Okay, so we're going to get into that today, okay, in a technical fashion. And I'm not sure if you know this, but on a whim, we did the 7th solicitation of listener questions on social media this past Sunday. Yeah, and we hit the limit pretty quickly. We have a ton of questions to get to now, which is great. We're probably not going to have time today to get into the beginning of answering those questions, but we will in fact get started on those soon. So don't worry. They're coming. Thank you to all of you who participated in that. To those of you who were not able to participate because there was no announcement, we just kind of did it on a whim. It's okay. We'll do it again. We'll always do it again. Okay. And by the way, you can always email us with questions, and we'll be happy to answer you. Now, the photo posted with today's episode is of some silencers that are all specialized. It's kind of a strange photo. I just thought it would be cool to show you. Each of the silencers in the photograph has a specific use case. Yeah. And each of those units is intended by the manufacturer to really not deviate much. Okay. And this is appropriate for this podcast today because of the topic. The 762 Mini 2 is actually in that photograph because of that. That's right. It does fit in that photograph with the others. That is what they have in common. Specialization. Yeah. So now, if you're listening on YouTube, don't forget you are able to skip to the topics with the included timestamps in the video description, just like all the other folks in podcast land. The folks living in Spotify land and iTunes land and all the other wondrous podcast lands around the world. Because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about the great sponsoring companies that make this podcast possible every week. And the first one I would like to talk to you about is Legion Athletics. Because nothing you do, exercise, sports, shooting, badminton, I don't know what you do, is none of it's worth doing without consistency. Because, you have to do things all the time if you want to be good at them. And Legion Athletics can certainly help you do that. They have whey protein, pre-workout, post-workout, creatine, vitamins, minerals, supplements. They have a lot of what you need. Visit legionathletics.com. There's a link in the show notes, code REPUSCIENCE to save 20% off your first order. And if you keep using that code for double loyalty points every time you make an order there, you'll end up getting a net 10% off everything going forward forever. Just use that code word. It'll work. Get strong. It's important. Also, this episode's proudly sponsored by Silencer Shop. Man, Silencer Shop's done a lot, not only for consumers in the industry, but for a lot of dealers, large dealers, small dealers, nationwide. It's pretty wild, actually, what they've contributed to the state of practice. If you're a new dealer looking to get started in the space and you can't hold a lot of inventory, maybe you want to maintain low overhead, Silencer Shop might be able to help you out with that. You can use our kiosk. You can do your fingerprints and photos electronically. And in turn, you will cut down on errors. You'll simplify your silencer purchasing process. You'll get a money-back guarantee. they got a lot of stuff that's really great, guys. You don't pay any transfer fees. You don't have any paperwork errors. It's just you and your sponsor with no drama. It truly is sponsor ownership simplified. It's wild because they benefit both the consumer and the industry. It's really like a symbiosis. It's kind of wild. This episode is also brought to you by Top Gun Range Houston. That's right. If you're in the Houston area, even if you're just passing through on a business trip and, maybe that meeting's got you down and you say, oh, it would be dope to shoot a machine gun right now. You can head down to Top Gun Range. They have a 15-lane indoor shooting range, the largest firearm rental fleet in the entire state of Texas. And what's really cool is you can rent pistols and rifles and shotguns and machine guns, and you can even rent silencers on their range. So you can shoot the actual Pew Science tested configurations we have on the website live fire experimentation yourself. Like when you're on a business trip, that's nuts. Okay, you can check out their firearm rental inventory on the website, topgunrange.com. You can also find them on Instagram at Top Gun Range. They're great guys. It's really cool. And girls. Great girls too. Great guys and girls. But yeah, all of these sponsors are really offering something different for you folks. And another example of that, this episode is brought to you by Capital Armory. It's true. It's no secret that sponsors are in high demand right now. And right now, at least with the current ATF wait times, it's going pretty wild. Approval times are pretty quick. So with that demand, with those wait times, those are combining to really make you need options as a consumer. Okay, so Capital Armory is here to help you with that. And they got a pretty unique twist on it. Not only do they have a large selection of sponsors, they help you with that painful paperwork, they can ship them directly to you. It's pretty wild. If you live in one of the 42 states where sponsors are legal, you can order a sponsor in your living room and have it shipped directly to that same living room, which is pretty nuts. And it's really that easy. Capital Armory, sponsorship directly to your door. And finally, this podcast is brought to you by the Pew Science Laboratory. I'm the technical director of the lab. And in the interest of public education, we sponsor this podcast ourselves. And we do run a public research effort, which continues to push the sponsor industry forward one test at a time. That's right. Visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating. It's the simplest and most accurate hearing-safe rating for suppressed small arms. And it's based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot, from before the combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone, all the mechanical operation of the weapon system has ceased, the entire signature. It's the home of the sponsor sound standard. 7 sections, the most in-depth and accurate sponsor data and analysis in the entire world. And it's available to the public 24/7 at pewscience.com. And you yourself listening can support this podcast. You can support Pew Science. You can support all the public testing we do by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. That would be greatly appreciated. It's how we keep running. Okay, there's also a donate feature on the review page if you're into that. If you just want to give a one-time thing, that's cool too. And you know what? You don't have to give any money to us. We would ask that you just spread the word and give the podcast a great rating on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. Like and subscribe on YouTube, all that good stuff, to let folks know that sponsors and guns are awesome, and we can hope to normalize the use of suppressed small arms, which is the goal for everyone involved. We have one topic for you today, a Sound Signature Review 6157. The Surefire SOCOM 7.62 Mini 2 on the Mark 18 short barrel automatic rifle. That article has a comparison case study inside it. The study concerns itself with the Surefire total signature reduction technology and how it's implemented on a variety of units, including the RC3, the 5.56 RC2, and the 7.62 Mini 2. And the question here that we're going to answer today technically is, can you use a 30 caliber silencer on 5.56 and expect good results? So this is the technical discussion to accompany the introductory talk we had last week. And we're going to get technical. And what I'll do, I think what I'm going to do, since we only have one topic, is I'll try to pause momentarily as we progress and note timestamps of the different phases in the talk, and maybe that'll help people. I don't know. I'm experimenting with different stuff. Okay, so let's kick this off at a time of 9 minutes and 33 seconds. Okay, that's quite a long intro, but we had to. 1 second. That's what timestamps are for, so we'll move right into this. You know, I've told you guys I like to let the data analysis percolate with you for about a week before we talk technically, right? So I'm still of the opinion that that's a good decision. And boy, howdy, was feedback strong on this one. And it was strong early. It really was strong early. And obviously, the silencer community is very large. And the overall firearms community is even larger, dwarfing the silencer community, really. It's like a niche within a niche, right? But certain areas in which we receive feedback do have pretty good cross-sections of the community present. Just little slices that do represent a good user base. I do believe that. If you ask me to prove it to you, I'm not sure you would believe me, but I have a hunch. The mechanisms we get feedback through social media, email, phone calls, general word of mouth, keep your ear to the ground, nose to the grindstone, whatever metaphors you can come up with. But all of those methods of feedback last week sent us a consensus message. And that message was the analysis of the SOCOM 762 Mini 2 on the Mark 18 agrees with true user experience. Okay, guys, I can't tell you how good a news that is. If you had asked the question a decade ago, you would simply not get that consensus in public forums without having users standing by unafraid to tell the truth. That's how wild it was, guys. It was not the same. Okay, people were recommending this silencer on 5.56 just because it's the same size as the 5.56 RC2. And guys, Surefire never intended it to be used like that. They never did. Surefire makes cartridge-specific and platform-specific silencers, okay? And that's a really big deal. And it's important for you to understand that some manufacturers do that, okay? So let's talk about the silencer. Let's talk about it technically here so we can all understand what it's doing, and we'll kind of build on it. So I got here on my desk sitting in front of me, I got a 762 Mini 2. It's the brown one in the photograph that I explained in the intro. And then I have a black 5.56 5.56 RC2, which is the same exact size. They're both on my desk in front of me here. I'm looking at them right now. Okay. On the outside, I'm telling you, this thing looks legitimately like a 5.56 RC2, which, as you know, is Surefire's long-standing full-size 5.56 silencer. The 762 Mini 2 is the same diameter. It's the same length. Has the same locking collar. Comes in the same colors. There are some differences. Once you start to look closely, when you have them in front of you, there are some differences, and you'll start to notice them. The first difference is the mount interface. Okay, you can use the 762 Mini 2 on the 5.56 Surefire mounts. Yes, you can. That's how we did this test. But the 762 Surefire mounts will not fit into the 5.56 silencers. Okay, that's due to the key notch. That's on purpose. The key notch in the 762 Mini 2 is just a little bigger than the notch in the 5.56 silencers, and that's how the 762 mount keys are prevented from fitting in the 5.56 silencers, because the mount key on a 762 mount is a little bigger. That's right. Now, if you hold the two silencers side by side and you look into the first expansion chamber or the blast chamber at the mount interface, with that key notch, you can actually tell with the naked eye that the notches are different, but barely. You can barely tell, but you can tell with your naked eye. So that's one difference. The other difference is more obvious, and that's the bore. That's right, it's the bore. Look through the bore of the 762 Mini 2, and you will see it is, you guessed it, bored for 30 caliber use. That's right, not surprising. Not surprising. And the number of baffles is actually similar as well. Pretty interesting. Actually pretty interesting. So for a long time, folks have been recommending the silencer as a more versatile 5.56 RC2. Because, hey, why not, right? Same size, close to the same weight, can use the same mounts as the 5.56 silencers. Basically looks the same, just a little bigger hole. Surely it's the same. Surely it's just fine. Surely performance will be similar. And hey, it's more versatile. You can use it on more guns. What's not to love? That was the argument for like a decade, dude. Well, friends, Let's talk about what happens when you change combustion regimes. Let's go back to basics, right? So the 5.56 by 45 millimeter NATO cartridge. Let's talk about it. It's episode 223. We're close to 5.56 if you look at it that way. That cartridge exhibits high pressure with a relatively small diameter initial jet. One moment. Sorry about that, frog in my throat. What was I saying? Right. High pressure with a relatively small diameter initial jet. Okay. There are some benefits of this type of small arm combustion input. There are some benefits of that type of input. One of those being a pretty predictable initial flow field. You basically know what the jet's going to do. You know how far to offset your first reflector to start to do work. If you're a very experienced silencer designer, people figure that out. In the case of the RC2, they were able to do some venting that really helped to vent the blast load, reduce blast chamber impulse at just the right time. It was really well tuned in the case of the 5.56 RC2. And again, it worked because everything was in balance in the first expansion chamber. That's a really important part of the Surefire silencer system. In the 7.62 Mini 2, you can really try to do the same thing. And you know what? They do. Boy, do they. Reach, and you can do this too at home. Reach your finger up into the 7.62 Mini 2 into the blast chamber. You won't be able to fit it in the distal orifice unless your finger is very tiny. But yeah, put your finger in the blast chamber, and what do you feel? The same blast chamber vents are there as were in the RC2. Yeah, that's right. And if you didn't know any better, you were going to take full advantage of them here, right? You would think to yourself, but here's the rub. Your jet expansion is not happening faster somehow. Like you're not somehow going to expand faster out of a 5.56 jet nozzle than you were before. That's not going to just happen. Okay, just because you increase the silencer bore size, your silencer doesn't know about your gun. Understand me? Your silencer doesn't know about your gun. The silencer is along for the ride. Okay, so what ends up happening is a couple of mismatches, honestly. There's a couple of mismatches here. The first mismatch that you have going on is expansion timing to first reflector. That is a problem. That's when you can tell things are about to go badly. The second mismatch you have is annular pressure differential and the gradient that's caused here. You're just not going to take advantage of the annulus the same way. You can't do it because the reflector timing's all off. Your first hole is too big. So the jet is not interacting the same way once it reaches the first reflector. It can't because there's no baffle there. There's a hole there. You understand? The hole's too big for the jet. This is such. Guys, yes, there's a blast load coming out of the muzzle, but there's jet momentum. There's a literal jet momentum stream. It's so important. The most simple way to describe the behavior of a 7.62 Mini 2 on 5.56, and this is just an analogy I thought of. It's like you're driving a sports car on a track with bald tires. Yes, you can go fast. Yes, you can turn. Absolutely. But when it comes to driving it as designed, you're going to lose traction. You just won't be able to get up to speed around the corners the other cars are doing. You just won't be able to. That's a cartridge design mismatch. Okay? Now, I know that's a very high level description. Talked a little bit about physics, but very high level. It's a little conceptual. I understand. So what we can do now, what we can show you is some hard data to explain exactly what I'm saying here, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull up the article, and what I'm going to do is note the time when I'm saying that. It's going to be a time of 19 minutes and 26 seconds. Okay, so I just noted that time. So after everything I just told you that's conceptual, now we're going to go look at some very hard data to support these points. You understand? Okay, so please, if you're at a computer or on your phone in an airport bar, having a beer after a long trip or on the start of a long trip, I support that as long as it's not an IPA. Don't do yourself a disservice. Pull up Article 6, 157. Okay, on the website, Article 6, 157 in the Silencer Sound Standard at pewscience.com. We evaluated this same silencer on 308 back in Article 106, just for your information. If you did not know that, we did. This time it's 556 of the Mark 18, Article 157. Man, I can't wait till we get Article 187. It's going to be nuts. That's a rap joke. So we're going to start, I'm assuming you have the article up. We're going to start at the top. Bottom line up front, 17.2 suppression rating, 1.0 meters left of the end cap of the silencer, the mill standard 1.6 meter height above the ground. That's right. 20.4 suppression rating, 6 inches right of the shooter's right ear. Again, mill standard location. What does that do? Well, that brings us to a composite suppression rating of 22.5 in the Mark 18 with the silencer. Okay, so a little lower than you're used to seeing. Okay. So if you're only a high-level guy or girl, that's really what you need to know. Okay, if you're only high level and you're done. Okay, you're done. We're done with you, and I hope that was good information for you. But we can go deeper. Yes, we can always go deeper. So scroll down. If you just scroll down in the article, there's a lot of words. In fact, if you keep scrolling down, there's a high-level summary. You can skip that. Keep scrolling. Keep going all the way. I know there's a table. Skip it. Keep scrolling all the way down until you get to the data plots. That's right. I told you we're going to get technical. You got Figure 1. You have Figure 1A and Figure 1B. Here, you have blast pressure in the free field. That's right. 1 meter left of the end cap of the silencer, 1.6 meters above the ground. This is the overpressure above atmospheric pressure caused by the blast load propagating out of the silencer's end cap. That's what that is. That is physically what you're viewing here. It is. The vertical the vertical axis in those plots is pressure in units of pascals. Yeah, those are SI units. Units of pascals on the vertical axis there, and the horizontal axis is time. What units are we using there? Milliseconds. And remember, there's 1,000 milliseconds in every second. That's what a millisecond is. I know some of you already know this, but some people don't, and that's why we're explaining it. Now, one thing you see in Figure 1A, and you know what? What's really cool, you can click it to make it bigger. If you click it on your computer, you tap it on your phone, it'll make it bigger. You can zoom in on your phone too, but make it bigger and look at all the detail. So, Figure 1A, one thing you can see is that the pressure blows down fairly quickly. What do we know from that right away? Well, that's a good indicator that the silencer's flowing a little faster than normal, isn't it? It is. That's one indicator. You can just see that right away without even looking at any other thing, just at the shape of the curve. Yeah. Okay, what else can you see? Well, the bolt carrier group's returning to battery a little more slowly. Interesting. Okay. So far, things are starting to add up. I mean, you can even see the ground reflection a little bit more than normal. A little bit, right? You see the ground reflection? You see that? How there's a little blip there at around, 37 or so milliseconds? Yeah. Why would you be able to see ground reflection? Well, you'd have to have enough blast pressure blow down to be able to discern that event, wouldn't you? Well, how do you get that? Well, high flow rate. That's right. It's all together. Okay. So far, again, things are starting to add up. What else is happening? What else is happening in this figure? Well, we can zoom in for a closer look because sometimes the physics happens so fast that instead of looking at the entire time regime, you have to look at the early time regime, which can tell us quite a lot. Okay, so let's look at, maybe we can see something interesting in early time when everything gets started. So go ahead and exit out of that, and now let's go to Figure 1B. Yeah. Now, in Figure 1B, we're zoomed into the early time, beginning of blast load propagation, where a lot of things happen from a silencer. This is like if you were looking at your hand, and took a magnifying glass and looked at your fingerprint to really see all the swirls. That's what we're doing. This is the silencer's fingerprint, but really close up. That's one way you can think of this. Every silencer has on every weapon with every type of ammunition has a certain fingerprint, and that's what Pew Science examines. We read the fingerprints and we identify what is happening. Okay? So, figure 1B, you see some extremely interesting things happening here. We included, actually in this figure, we included the first 3 shots so you could see the consistency of what's happening and the inconsistency of what's happening all at the same time. Yeah. So again, click it and make it bigger if you need to. The first thing you're going to notice here, no matter which shot is happening, you get an initial coupled jet. Yes, that's the shock wave coming off of the bullet coupled with a blast load jet coming out of the silencer. They're together. They're nested. They love each other. They really love each other. They don't separate ever. They physically can't. They're bonded for life. Now, during the first shot, okay, that first nested peak, it's higher. It is. And the reason it's higher is because of the component from muzzle blast that is in the nest is higher itself. It is. Again, that's a superposition principle. That's what we call superposition. Superposition for blast load coalescence does in fact hold. It's actually interesting in that you may think sometimes that it's more complicated when in fact it is just a simple superposition in that way for that peak, which is quite convenient in this way. That's actually it has to, it is in the time domain that it nests, but anyway, it is quite convenient for analysis. That tells us a lot, and the reason why that component of the early time blast load from the first round is higher is because there's way too much air available in the silencer. And what is that doing? It's making secondary ignition go wild. Literally what you're seeing is secondary ignition here, okay? And so after that first shot signature, and again, us old school silencer nerds, we call that first round pop. Yes, even in a supersonic case, because that's literally what causes first round pop. It's secondary ignition due to air supporting the combustion environment under high temperature of products that may be present. After that first shot, you see a drastic change in the early time behavior. And what you're seeing now is both shot 2 and shot 3 exhibiting an extremely uniform peak. And yet it's still coupled. Both, I know it looks like it's not. Those are still coupled jets. They just so happen to be lower amplitude, and shot 2 and shot 3 are right on top of each other. It's a consistent silencer in that way. Okay, I told you we're going to look at some consistencies and we're going to look at some inconsistencies. Okay, so yeah. So what happens next? Okay, all well and good. You say, oh, first round pop. Okay, got it, understood. Okay, shot 2 and shot 3. Oh, they seem to be having better. Okay, understood. But what happens next? Well, this is where things start to go terribly wrong for the Mini 2 on 5.56. Okay, and we're not even a millisecond into the jetting yet. Things are going wrong, and a full millisecond hasn't even passed. Okay, that's how you know this is going to be a bad day. I'm just calling it like it is, guys. I want to explain this to you so you really understand the gravity. And what I would like to welcome you to now is Muzzle Jet Town, USA, population U. Yeah, that's right. The overbore from the 7.62 Mini 2 is the gift that keeps on giving. Okay, immediately you're going to see these huge jets propagating out of the end cap. And the jet momentum is great enough such that it stays in the positive phase for a bit. This is a physical manifestation that happens when the jet momentum of the sensor doesn't relax. The sensor can't relax. You get a positive phase output for a certain duration, and that is one physical indicator of increased particle momentum. And we'll talk about that in a second, but I can already tell you that's what's happening just because that's the way the blast load works, and that's what's physically happening from the silencer. Okay? And that positive phase, the maintaining of that positive phase for that fixed duration is happening even after the first shot. And what does that mean? It means it's inherent to the silencer's behavior. It's not necessarily an FRP phenomenon driven by extra air and secondary ignition. Okay, this is pure combustion propagation from the origin. Okay, from the birth orifice, from the muzzle. Okay, it's simply not being suppressed correctly. Okay, this is the definition of incorrect. It's unoptimized suppression in early time. Okay, if there was a textbook definition for this, figure 1B could be used for that. Okay, is it clear? Now, just when you thought it wasn't going to get any worse, it gets worse. Let's talk about blast momentum. Okay, let's move to figure 2. Okay, so let me click this and let me go down. I'll scroll down myself. I'm doing this with you. Scroll down to figure 2. Okay, figure 2. This is the stage, and I'm gonna click. Why not? I'm gonna make my figure 2A bigger because I like to look at it big on my screen here. This is the stage where if you're at the party and everyone was having a great time, you haven't seen your friends in a while, just everyone's having a great old time at that party. This is when some dude trips over the power cord to the stereo and the lights turn on. Yeah, party over, dude. Yeah, look at figure 2A, okay? This displays blast momentum transfer potential or impulse at the same location. We haven't left, bro. We are in the same location, working the same physics, just we're expressing it with a different quantity, okay? As expected. And let me back up. So this is blast load impulse, which is the momentum transfer potential of the wave. That's physically what impulse is. Okay, so waves have particle momentum. This is the momentum transfer potential of the wave. Okay, I just noticed it's a typo in the figure. The title says min2 instead of mini2. Great, that's probably in every one of them. Got to fix that. Why does this happen? Let's get back to the figure. As expected, I got distracted. As expected, you see the FRP waveform run away. So in your blast momentum here, you see the FRP waveform is running away, guys. And you might say, hey, Jay, that's okay. FRP, overbore, we get it. It's expected. We get it. No problem. Understood. Happened before. We'll get over it. I understand. And I'll give you that. I will agree and concede that that is FRP. Yes. But then what happens? Look at shot 2. Does it behave the same as shot 1? Well, no. No, it doesn't. Not the same as shot 1. And that's a really interesting part of this, and the nuance is super important here. Look at when it runs away. Look at when it runs away. And look when it doesn't. Yes, I know. This is actually pretty crazy. And to get a better look, you guessed it, click off of that, go to figure 2B. Okay, figure 2B. Now this is the wild part. You're going to forget about your early time secondary combustion, like everything's fine, in shot 2. You're like, oh, I'm at a lower slope. I'm all happy. Everything's fine. But then what? Uh-oh. Maybe there's some more. What happened? What is happening early in the first peak of the blue waveform in figure 2B with shot 2? It's trying, but what's happening? Could you potentially not have occupied your full volume? Did you overutilize the center bore? Is that foreshadowing for what happens like about half a millisecond later? Yeah, probably. Look what happens around 30.5 milliseconds. Something starts to climb. The bore was utilized too much. The bore was overutilized. And there aren't any traffic cops to prevent cross-contamination. This is not meant for this. It's not engineered internally to deal with this phenomena. So the job didn't get done on the first shot. The first round secondary ignition, which would cause extensive first round audible signature and flash signature, both of them, was not quenched. In shot 2, this is probably a good example of hot dog down a hallway, I think is how the saying goes. You're riding in the sidewalls. You don't have enough girth. You get my drift? You didn't ignite everything. Probably the first go around. You suffered an incomplete combustion event, and you just may have ramped secondary ignition again. You got tertiary ignition when you really think about it. And when does it happen? Look at the timing. When does it happen? Well, it happens at peak flow. Oh, crap. It happens at peak flow, guys. At peak momentum transfer, just before you start to lose steam, what happens? The silencer it's fully saturated. What happens? Boom. Literal explosion. Literal secondary ignition. Literally at that point, what happens? It's a literal explosion with repeated FRP. 30.75 milliseconds. Write it down. It's right there in figure 2A. Or 2B, whatever. 30.75 milliseconds. Write it down. FRP repeats, and it's not good. That's physically what's happening in the silencer. That's why that happens. So you look at this, and you see the Surefire silencer is actually consistent. It really is consistent, just like all Surefire silencers are. All Surefire silencers have a degree of consistency to them. It's a testament to how their designs work and how they build them, except for the fact that this one's not optimized to be that way from the beginning. And why? It's because it's overbore. This is the overbore case for a 556 RC2 technology. This is a case study on overbore 556 technology for Surefire. This is what happens basically when you overbore an RC2 to 30 caliber. That's no. I wouldn't say that's literally the same thing as what they did, but it's pretty close. And for all intents and purposes, it's close enough. Because the physics here are not only irrefutable, but in a way beautiful, because the phenomena are so clearly demonstrated. It's clear. The nature of the Surefire baffle design does not lend itself to such a modification. It just doesn't, okay? And this study really does show that. So far, that's what you're seeing, okay? But hold that thought. Let me do this. Let me make another timestamp at 38 minutes and 12 seconds. Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna put another time. Okay, I put another timestamp there because I know we got super technical, and I wanted to split it up because some people might freak out. I think people are freaking out sometimes. Hold on. I can understand this can be overwhelming. So let's talk about. Let's hold that thought. Hold that thought on that type of modification to a technology that could disrupt performance in a different combustion regime. Hold that thought, and let's use examples from the pedigree and industry to support the conclusion that this could happen not only to Surefire, but could happen to anybody. Let's talk about it. Have we been here before? Are there other cases of this happening? Well, yeah, sure. Sure, we have. We have been here before, and in fact, not for my health, but for your understanding, please see research note 2 in the article. Okay, we have been here before. In research note 2 will give you excruciating detail about these travels on which we've embarked together. Not all silencer technologies are happy with overbore in different models. Some of them will still do the job. They will, even if they're not optimized. Yeah. So now there are levels to this, just like with a lot of performance attributes. Okay, there are levels to this. In the research note, there are two examples: the Otter Creek Labs design, which definitely drops in performance when you move to 30 caliber on 5.56. We've seen that. You can reference the test report as you like. But the thing about the Otter Creek design is it's fairly predictable and it isn't quite as inconsistent. That's just a consequence of their design. Then something that is not diametrically opposed, but okay, I guess you could say it might be. You have the CAT stuff, and in fact, the example that I gave you there was the ODB, which is that's designated. It's really a 762 by 39 silencer. It's kind of like the 762 Mini 2 in that way, but the ODB pretty much crushes a ton of things on 5.56. It just so happens that as an intermediate rifle cartridge silencer, the ODB is a switch hitter, and it's relatively rare. Okay, so I told you there's levels to this. Now, the place we have been before, quite a lot, is looking at some very well-known designs. Some they're pretty simple, and in some cases, even in my technical opinion, more simple than the Otter Creek stuff. Just because you think it might not be simple because it has more curves than the Otter Creek doesn't mean it is more simple. The way the Otter Creek silencer works is deceptively simple. You might think it's simpler than it is. It's actually not as simple as you think. The silencers I'm speaking about are things like the Trash Pandas, your rugged stuff, the Razor series. Remember, dead air stuff, which is, again, the dead air stuff I'm talking about is basically just the rugged stuff. It's basically almost the same silencers. Then you have things like the energetic armament arcs. Yeah. In all of those cases that I just mentioned, and they're in the note if you need to read it, in all of those cases of 30 caliber systems adapted for 5.56, you get or let me back up. Let me say it politically correct. In all of those cases of overbore scenarios with 5.56, you get wild inefficiency in performance. Wild inefficiency. And again, you can go to each of those reports linked in the article there in Research Note 2 and study them if you like. That's the whole purpose of this research pedigree, is to have continuous reference, continuous examples, continuous consistency of physics and demonstration of performance for everyone. And that's what that is. So the SOCOM 762 Mini 2 fits pretty well in that group, guys. It fits pretty well in that group. It's small, it's overboard for 5.56, and you really should expect it to perform in a similarly inconsistent way. You really should. Because it's just not built for 5.56. Okay, it's just not. It doesn't claim to be. And it's just never going to be the 5.56 silencer you want it to be. It just won't. It's not possible. It's physically impossible. It's a physical impossibility. I'm saying it a lot because I think that when you say things multiple times, it gets reinforced. That's what people tell me. I don't know why. It's just the way the brain works. 1 second. If you can't tell, I'm trying to put this to bed. Now, here's the thing that's a little interesting, though. And I did allude to this last episode. What is one benefit of the SOCOM 762 Mini 2 on 5.56? Well, lower back pressure, for one. It gets lower back pressure than some other designs because of 3 reasons. There's 3. That's right. What are they? Well, the first reason is because Surefire. That's right. Early proximal vent array, just a Surefire thing they do. It's actually pretty cool. That's one of my favorite features of a silencer. I get off on it. I don't know, man. I'm just like, I'm a nerd, and it's one of the reasons I think Surefire silencers are cool. It's because it's like, I like that feature of the RC series. Okay, that's cool. Great. Second reason you get lower back pressure from the 762 Mini 2 is because of overbore in this situation. In this particular situation, remember our context that we're speaking about. Yes, that is true. Finally, the third reason is because of length, which is common to all cartridges you put through it. These three reasons, these three physical traits of the silencer are working together to allow blast momentum transfer through the silencer to be relatively expedient. And when I say that, what I really mean is relatively expedient in the time regime we care about. Remember, the dimension of time is important. If you ignore it, you will fail. Now, there's something that happens with Surefire technology when the flow gets faster. We can stretch time out if you want. I can still explain it. Okay, let's talk about it. Now, it's not the same thing exactly, but there are some parallels here to the 556 RC3. There are, and this is where I think people are gonna tune in here. I'm listening to user feedback. Okay, I'm gonna start this next part of the talk at 45 minutes and 33 seconds. This is like, remember when Eugene Stoner was sitting there with his AR and they put a dang forward assist on it and he was tapping it and making fun of it because he thought it was silly? That's me with these timestamps today. I'm like, really? Can't you just listen to it? I know I'm being a FUD or an old boomer. Being a boomer. I'm sorry. One second. We've been going for like 46 minutes. What do you want from me? Now, again, okay, we're gonna talk RC3 because you have to. I have no choice. Now, here's where it gets a little hairy. We included a member case study in the article for you guys. I hope you liked it. I liked writing it. So in this report, supporting Pew Science members are not only getting the shooter's ear data analysis, which you get in every report, but you're also getting a short case study comparing three things: the 556 RC2, the 556 RC3, and the 762 Mini 2 in a certain way. Now, the reason this is included is because with those three silencers, you're essentially creating distinct implementations of the Surefire technology all in the same weapon, and some of the similarities are striking, particularly when you get to high flow rate scenarios, particularly when you compare war comp use on the RC2 and the RC3 to three-prong use with the 762 Mini 2. And I wanted to illustrate to you just how fast the muzzle's flowing with this silencer, guys, and just how erratic it can be. And in the previous sections of the talk, I told you about wave particle velocity in the context of blast wave momentum. I told you about the silencer's length. I told you about the silencer's overbore. I told you about the early proximal venting, and I'm trying to help you understand how fast the blast load is propagating. It's so important. And so I do believe that the case study in the report giving you the contextual raw data overlays with the other silencers should be more than enough to seal the deal, to illustrate what's happening with the physical manifestation of erratic combustion propagation. I wanted to show you this, all of the data and analysis in the umpteen Surefire articles we published. I mean, of all of that stuff you've seen, sometimes maybe just a basic side-by-side comparison in pictures is worth 10,000 words, I think. I know everyone learns differently. Some people, they complain, I'm on YouTube and I can't see anything. Okay, well, go read the article. They say, well, it's too long. I say, well, only other thing I could do than what I'm doing right now is what we talked about with an iPad no Apple products, but like some kind of pen, and I'm writing on a screen and I walk you through it. But either way, you're going to have to listen to this or you're going to have to read it, or both. Because at the end of the day, and look, you members are cut above, I want you to at least come away from this knowing 100% that you simply cannot expect the same performance from a 762 Mini 2 as you can from the RC2 on the Mark 18, regardless of them being the same size. People who talk about volume with silencers, and especially in the supersonic cartridge regimes, they're out to lunch, guys. They're out to lunch with their physical knowledge of what's happening. They're out to lunch. They're not shooting you straight because this is definitive. Okay? And now let's circle back. Let's calm down. Goose for a bar. Now, speaking of the 556 RC3, 1 second. RC3, it's not overboard. No, it's not. That's true. It's not. It's a purpose-built 556 silencer. But Surefire changed their tech. They changed their tech. How? Why? Well, they changed it to allow faster early time and late time flow. We've been over that. The balance of those flow rates, and let me use a different word if you're a physicist and getting upset with that word, because you could be. The balance of blast load propagation in different parts of the silencer overall seems to be unstable. You feel me? Out of balance? Is that a better way to say that to you? In the RC, I'm talking about the RC3 right now. And that's what I meant last episode when I said we handicapped the 762 Mini 2 by testing it on 556. But then I said that the 556 RC3 handicapped itself. I remember I said that. I did. The RC3 is handicapped because Surefire took one of the stopgap measures of the RC2 design and they turned it on its head. They relied on work done in the early proximal section to feed a new way of distal travel. And by doing so, they did accomplish a lot. Believe me, they did accomplish a lot of their goals. But the risk here, and they knew the risks. I knew the risks when I saw it on paper before we tested it. The risk here is there's simply not enough flow control in that design. And we've beat that dead horse already. We've beat that to death in the RC3 article, the podcast, and everything. But the parallel here, the topical parallel to bring it back here, is that the 762 Mini 2 shows some of the same issues simply from overbore. Yeah, dude. And the fact they both show some of the same issues, one being a simple change and one being a complex change, it shows you there's multiple ways to get a net reduction in performance. So you really got to be careful. And this is a lesson. I think this is a lesson learned for a lot of people. There are a lot of knobs to turn in silencer designs. Turn one knob, and you just may not know which other knobs are connected to that knob. The gas expansion and the reflection in the proximal vent array of the RC3, it's more similar to an overboard 762 Mini 2 system than you might realize, or maybe that they realized. Wouldn't know without testing it, I think. I mean, I didn't know until we tested it that it was going to be that congruent in some ways. And it's a little concerning to me. That's a little concerning. I'm not concerned for them. I'm concerned. Just in general, this is concerning. Physically, I think if and when they do a 762 RC3 and perhaps maybe mini versions of that, I would be interested to explore the performance. I'll be very interested to test those. However, it does beg the question, how much could they do with that new RC3 tech in a smaller envelope anyway? I mean, guys, what did you just see from Pew Science? More member-funded data. What did you just see? Well, you saw the Knights Armament MCQ PRT, right? That's short, bro. What would a mini RC3 do? That's a great question. I'm going to find out, I bet. Maybe. I don't know. I honestly don't know if they're going to do that. I have no idea. I have no idea if they would, honestly. But you see where I'm going with this, right? I mean, hey, it's okay to speculate sometimes when you're doing it intelligently, I think. When you're like purposefully, at least. Not maybe not intelligently, but purposefully. 1 second. With purpose, we're guessing and speculating because this is the logical, empirical path you would want to go down to understand it. Right? So I'd say that the net result here, guys, is that the blast load propagating out of the muzzle of the 762 Mini 2 is so severe that any back pressure reduction you get is pretty much null and void. Sure, it won't be gassy, but the blast load of your face from the muzzle, it's going to clap your cheeks. Oh, wait, I don't think I used that term right. That's not what that means. It's going to be violent for your face. I didn't mean to say. You understand what I'm saying. I can tell you the thing does flow fast, and let me give you some anecdotal shooting experience with and I told some of you this already. Some of you already know this. I think I even showed a video of this once on the old Instagram. I put this silencer on a 13-inch 7.62 SCAR, and it makes the ejection port signature from the SCAR less severe than with a full-size 7.62 RC2, so that's cool. It does do that, as you would expect from this data. That's real, but it's loud, fam. It's loud, dude. It's loud. With 308, this thing's loud. But hey, it's like small, right? Now with 5.56, this thing's loud. You saw that from this article. You know, that SCAR experience, yeah, that's subjective by me, right? It's just as a shooter and observer. And one of the observers that saw me shoot it was like, oh, that's loud. I'm like, I know. The rest of what I've told you, though, besides that SCAR thing, it's all objective. And the fact that it completely agrees with my anecdotal experience, too, is cool. And all you that read the article that told me about it, which is cool. Again, remember, like I said at the beginning of the talk, this agrees with all the honest people who piped up after publication. It's wild. Have you ever seen that many people agree about a Surefire silencer performance before, particularly this one? I haven't. I've watched this for a long time. I have never seen such a consensus of 7.62 Mini 2 performance. It's like, did we finally give people the opportunity to tell the truth and not get yelled at? Remember, physics doesn't care about your brand. It's like we can all speak freely now and we don't get in trouble anymore because it's backed by data. I like that. Makes me happy. Let's do it again. 57 minutes. He's running wild with timestamps. 57 minutes and 10 seconds. This is a mistake. We're never doing that again. Let's talk comparison in the playing field on the Mark 18 now. I was going to shift gears, so I wanted to timestamp it. I don't know if this method is going to work, guys. You let me know your feedback. But I want to let's talk about comparison. Let's talk real. We talked about the case study as much as we could without violating members' decorum. Let's talk in section 6157.3. We have a bar chart, so we can do this a couple ways. Man, 1 second. We can do this a couple ways. You can use the bar chart in the report in Figure 12, or you can use the rankings table and sort. Let's do that. Let's go to the rankings table. I had another tab open with it open. Let's use the rankings table. Go there, filter by Mark 18 in the weapon system drop-down filter. Select Mark 18. Then what I want you to do is sort by overall composite suppression rating, ascending. So you're going to click it twice. That way you have the loudest possible at the top, which in this case happens to be the MCQ PRT on the Mark 18 with a 3-prong. Remember, the MAMs would be needed to save that thing on the Mark 18, which is totally weird, but that's a weird silencer. It's a weird muzzle device. We already talked about that. So that's a big deal. Here you see that on this chart with the loudest stuff on the Mark 18. What's the loudest stuff? Well, it's the MCQ, the Razor, the ARCs. Yeah, then the 7.62 Mini 2. The 7.62 Mini 2. Really right there with them. What's the next thing? Like an 7.62 RC2 with a war comp? Yeah, of course that's down there, right? You know, Razor 5.56, vented Helios QD, Sam NS. Damn, Sam NS is down there. I didn't realize the Sam NS was that loud. Yeah, it is. Wow. Wow, when you do this, ooh, maybe I shouldn't keep reading these. It's gonna make people mad. Holy crap! I always forget about these silencers because, like, they're loud and like I wouldn't shoot them. I mean, that's just my personal thing. Don't get mad at me. Maybe I would shoot them. I don't know. Oh, you saw me shoot this. I saw the 7.62 Mini 2 on a Scar. Anyway, we're getting off topic. But you see this, right? To compare this, this is a big deal, and here's the point I want to make here. And now I'm being serious. Here's the point I want to make here. It's not that the silencer is just a little bit louder on 5.56 than the RC2 is. It's not that it's a little bit louder, guys. No. It's not that it's a little bit bad. And it's just going to be a little worse for people, and all silencers sound the same, and you can't suppress 5.56 anyway because it's supersonic, and no. None of that is true. The reality here is that the 7.62 Mini 2 on the Mark 18 is one of the loudest possible things you could use. One of. Okay? That is how loud it is. Now, we're not done. Notice how the ear rating kind of creeps up a little bit, though. And this is actually, sort by the shooter's ear suppression rating ascending. you might not like. Oh, my website's messing up. Oh, there you go. See, it was like a little bit of a delay. You might not want to look at this. Spoiler alert. The shooter's ear suppression rating of this thing is actually right at polonium levels in the free field on an untuned Mark 18. Both silencers will damage your ears on an untuned Mark 18. It's just that the polonium's doing it with ejection port blast primarily, whereas the 7.62 Mini 2 is letting the muzzle blast clap you. Different blast loads, same damage. Physics is a mother effer, dude, right? Like, physics is going to get you. Physics doesn't care about your brand. We're going to keep saying that. So let's go back to the visual reference. Now, like, we're sorting. I want you to see this visually with colors. Let's go back to the bar chart in the article. Click back to the article. We'll go back to figure 12 with the bar chart with the colors. You can see in red, the SOCOM 7.62 Mini 2 is labeled relatively toward the top of the chart. The reason is the gas momentum restriction is super low. That's why it's up there. You can see visually that the suppression rating at the shooter's ear is 20.4. So it's low, but you see how many other things on the chart are also around 20? And if you go down to the bottom of the chart, you'll still see things that are near 20 at the shooter's ear. What you're witnessing as you progress down the chart is ejection port blast and muzzle blast fighting each other. They're fighting each other at the shooter's face. Every once in a while, you're going to get a golden ticket. Today is not that day. Today's not that day. Okay? So now's a good time to look at, and I don't think we need to timestamp any more of this. That's enough timestamps. Most timestamps I've ever done on a podcast. Now's a good time to look at the 4 main points that were in the article summary and also down below figure 12 in that list. I think that's a good summary thing. We're not going to read them, but I'm going to abbreviate them right now to you succinctly so you will understand them. First point. One second. I'm like out of water. I'm dying here. First point. In the free field. This thing's louder than an RC2 on the same weapon system, and it protects you a little bit less as the shooter, despite having a high flow rate, because the muzzle blast is so bad it makes the low back pressure not matter. Okay, that is true. This also happens with the 7.62 RC2. We talked about this. I just wanted to highlight that again. Second point. This thing is loud, sort of like the other loud silencers we mentioned, but it's bigger than some of them. That's not good. Okay, look, bigger than an ARX, bigger than an MCQ. That's interesting. Not good. Third point. In the free field, hazard to the shooter similar to a polonium. Like I said, similar to an ASC M4 2000. Similar to a SAM NS. In the free field to the shooter. Why? It's because the low back pressure is traded for extreme muzzle loudness. We just explained that. That's why. Finally, fourth point. If you, yes you, for some ungodly reason, decide to use a war comp with this silencer, I don't know why you would do this. If you for some reason you got a war comp rifle and you're like, I'm going to put this on there. Okay, you can. Chances are you're going to have a bad time. Just wear your hearing protection, dude. You're already getting a high muzzle load from this. You're already getting that. We already showed you that. Remember, saw the blast impulse of the shooter's ear. You're already getting that. You want to add a leak? Okay. Brother, it's not going to be good. I mean, if you're shooting the gun unsuppressed, it's going to be worse, obviously, but this isn't going to be good suppression with a war comp. It's not going to be better than it is now. It's going to get worse. I promise. I promise, dude. We didn't even have to, due to what you see in the member version of this review at the shooter's ear, trust it. If you're a member, look at it. You can see why we didn't add the war comp. It's like that Simpsons episode where like, he's already dead. Yeah, it's like that. I'm sick of war comp tests. They're unpleasant. So we already know doesn't work right. So that's what I got, guys. What is that? A good hour? Not kind of the intro. Intro was like 9 minutes. So yeah, almost an hour of straight crazy talk. That's what I got. That's the 7.62 Mini 2. You saw it in 308. You've seen it on short barrel 5.56. Really, other than 300 blackout, I don't know what else we do with it. We put on AK, whatever, dude. People did ask for 300 blackout data with this. They did. Consider what would happen. I want you to consider what would happen with subsonic 300 blackout. We have 7.62 RC2 data with 300 blackout. We have 300 SPS data with 300 blackout. What would the 7.62 Mini 2 do with 300 blackout? Well, it's definitely going to be louder than a 300 SPS. You can bet your life on that one. Because the 300 SPS is purpose-built 300 blackout silencer. What did I tell you at the beginning of this episode? Surefire does system-specific silencers. So Surefire made a 300 SPS for 300 blackout, and it's pretty dang slick. Is it light? No. Is it quiet? Absolutely. So you know that already. So the 7.62 Mini 2 it's not going to be 300 SPS. Now, what else is the 7.62 Mini 2 going to be louder than? It's going to be louder than a 7.62 RC2. On 300 blackout, and you know that already, and you know how loud a 7.62 RC2 is on 300 blackout compared to 300 SPS. So, guys, go to the rankings table, look at 300 blackout, and see what you think might happen. You can almost bound it. You know what's going to be quieter, and so with the stuff that you know is going to be quieter, it might be a bad idea to even suspect, even think this is going to be quiet enough for you if you're not okay with that already. You understand? See, because we understand the technology a lot now, and we've explained it so much. So you can almost start to extrapolate test results, which is dangerous. But with silencers that are scaled like this and not purpose, and not like when they take a purpose-built design and they apply it to a different platform, we can start to predict what's going to happen. When they start to make purpose-built designs designed by computers and they all change shapes and everything, and we hop platforms, that's when we can't predict them. So I think we got kind of halfway there with the RC3, which is kind of wild when you really think about it. So I'm not saying we're not going to test this on 300 blackout, but I'm saying you maybe don't need it. And again, just like I told some folks online, we are happy to do it. For completeness, we just might not do it right now because we have other things to do. Okay. So what I think we'll do is I think we'll hit listener questions next time. I don't think we could fit that today. I hope this was informative. I hope all of you 7.62 Mini 2 users are satisfied. Now you have a more complete picture of the hazard with the silencer. I know a lot of people probably didn't realize this was on so many 5.56 guns, but it's on a bunch of them, guys. I can assure you. The amount of people who have recommended this silencer for 5.56 use is significant, okay? If you were getting fireballs out of this silencer on 5.56, now you know why. It is likely that you understand that now. It is not your fault. It does happen. Okay. Please stay safe out there, friends. Please go shooting. Stay cool. Stay in the shade. Be sure to hydrate. Okay. I'll talk with you folks again soon. All right. Bye.